Becoming plant-based or heading towards, you know, plant-based lifestyle or vegan or vegetarian or whatever, beans are so important. If at any point in your life you decide to have a high plant-based diet or even go vegan or vegetarian or high plant-based, one of the most common questions I get asked actually as a chef and as a woman cooking dinner is beans and how they make a lot of people fart, to be honest, and make a lot of people bloated, right? And how can we still have those amazing, incredible, luxurious, nutritional, dense isms in our world without feeling the threat of what they bring to the table. So I'm going to put in the link below actually a whole, like, everything I've kind of said in its bean form. Like if I'm talking about Adzuki beans, it's how long to cook them for, how long to soak them for, and all that sort of thing. When you decide to have a high plant-based diet, it is so important to incorporate beans in your world. And a lot of people get really scared of beans, and so they should, because they can cause bloating and farting, I know, right? And there's some tricks to alleviate that and to work around that. And there's so many different varieties of beans. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many different varieties I've had in my world and love and used in different recipes. So there's a few little tricks here, but first of all, I just want to read out the different types of beans for you so you can get an understanding of how many there are. And this is only like a tiny speck in the ocean of beans. So here we go. There's Adzuki beans. Adzuki beans came into my life when I worked in a health retreat in Australia. And they're a small kind of reddish brown looking bean. They're actually quite red and they're tiny. They're like this big. Kind of like a black bean, even smaller, almost like a mung bean, okay? And they've got this distinctive white kind of ridge that runs on the top of them. They're nutty and sweet in flavour, and they're super popular in Japan. They're low in fat, and they're the most easiest bean to digest when it comes to all the beans. Adzuki beans, very good. They have to be soaked overnight for as long as you can. Now the trick is to add around about 1/4 to half a teaspoon of bicarb soda in your water when it's soaking. They're a magnificent bean. Google them. I use them in tabbouleh. I love them as a tabbouleh instead of having wheat. Then we've got baby Lima beans, sometimes called butter beans. They're delicious and buttery and yummy. Once again, soak them bicarb soda, the same thing, overnight. And then we have black beans, so all the Mexican food out there, which sometimes is called a turtle bean. And they're black as anything, and they're amazing, and they need to be soaked overnight as well in that same process. They have a strong earthy flavour. Not as much as Adzuki bean, but definitely strong earthy flavour. And they're a great bean to suck up that smoky paprika, that chili, that garlic, cumin, onion kind of situation that you got going on with Mexican food. Then you've got black eye beans. Black eye beans would have to be one of my favourite beans to cook. They soak really well, they cook fast, they're delicious, and they have like, they're called black eye beans for a reason, because they have a black eye. I know, right? They're marked with a black eye. They don't have a black eye, they're marked with a black eye. Oh my God, they are delicious and cooked in like you know, water and crushed tomatoes and cumin and, you know, paprika and chili and garlic. My mouth's watering. And at the end having like a splash of coconut cream, and they're a luxurious, yummy bean, and they keep really well. And then you've got a cannellini bean. We all know kind of what cannellini beans are. They're a baked bean. You know, you get those canned of baked beans when you were kids. They're yummy, delicious. And they hold their shape when you cook them, and they're just a good bean. You know, they're an all-round good bean. Once again, soaking overnight, and I mean a good, you know, 16, 18 hours of a soak here. When people say overnight, that's what I mean, 16 to 18 hours, and also changing the water a couple of times throughout all soaking beans actually, and adding, you know, 1/4 teaspoon or half a teaspoon of bicarb soda at least twice in the soaking period. It's super important when you're soaking beans. Then we've got chickpeas, which are like gazebo beans. Now these are tricky. You've got to soak them once again, but you've got to cook them a bloody long time, and you get fooled because you think they're cooked. But if you can cook them for a couple of hours and then scoop one of the chickpeas out and sit it on the bench and let it cool for a minute and then open it, and if it's completely brown and creamy inside, it's cooked. But if you open it and it's kind of brown and there's this white speck in the middle, that means it's not cooked, because it's still slowly cooking through, right? And that's why you want it to be completely, you know, creamy and brown, you know, inside. And you should be able to squish that and not feel any sand texture and that white bit in the middle. It means it's not cooked. Gazabo beans, chickpeas are just so great in curry, oh my God, and they're so good in making any kind of hummus. Like, I make a standard base hummus, and then I have my pickled beetroot, which is in my cookbook, Plant-Based Love Stories. Get that, it's amazing. And I take my pickled beetroot and mix it in my plain based hummus recipe, and I have this delicious beetroot hummus. It's amazing. And then we have fava beans, and fava beans are like really meaty and really good with soups, you know, they're really delicious bean. And the bigger the fava bean, the better the soup. In other words, it just has this luxuriness about it. They're quite a big bean. Then we've got a great northern bean, and they're a large bean that really hold their shape. They're a really great bean, like in long, slow cooked recipes. They're mild in flavour and have like a creamy flesh. And then we have mung beans. It's like the pocket rocket of beans for me. I love them. My mung bean soup. I've got a detox mung bean soup in my book, Plant-Based Love Stories. I'll pop the link down here for the book. They're just an underused green bean. We normally sprout them, you know, like mung bean sprouts or, you know, mung bean shoots. We never really cook them. I love them. They're a tiny, round, green little stone. They're easy to digest, and they're perfect for any kind of Indian food like dal or khichdi, or my mung bean detox soup actually. They are spectacular, and they're cheap as chips, and they last forever. They're amazing. Then we have navy beans, which are also known as Yankee beans or Boston beans. They are a white bean, and they're quite small. They're delicious. Then we have pinto beans. Yeah, that's the word, pinto bean. And they've got this kind of beige kind of, you know, line through them, like brown streaks through them. And when you cook them, that fades away, right? And they turn into kind of like a pinkish brown kind of bean. That's what they turn into. They're gorgeous when they're raw by just looking at them. And then they turn into that. And then we have red kidney beans. And the reason why they're called kidney beans is because they're in the shape of a kidney, right? They're an amazing bean. They hold their shape. They absorb incredible amounts of flavour when you're cooking with them. They're a great bean to have on the shelf. Every single bean I've mentioned in this little moment of glory right now all require soaking, like I said in the beginning. And soaking it in bicarb soda, baking soda, you know, 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon, twice in that soaking period of at least 16 to 18 hours, all seem to take away that bloating and flatulence, you know, the farting that goes on. Winning. When you're soaking beans, like 1 cup of those raw beans, it's at least 1 litre of water, okay? Really important. The second thing is, I love to cook my beans with a slice of onions, some crushed garlic, and lots of like peppercorns and a bay leaf, and that just absorbs that flavour, do you know what I mean, that's in there, and they start to then take on other flavours. That's what I do. I find that very rewarding. The last thing is, I like to leave my gazabo chickpea beans and what are the other beans that I like to leave? Oh, the kidney beans and the black beans in their water after they're cooked until it's completely cooled down. I just find they just relax and they absorb all those isms. That's what I do. Now, if I'm going to cook any beans that require that kind of coconut milk, kind of gravy in the sense of like paprika and all those yummy spices, my mouth's watering thinking about it, oh my goodness. Definitely add more spices at the end of your cooking time, because it seems to wash away. And if you can have spices in their whole form and not buy spices that are already ground down in the supermarket, you'll find it's a lot better. And one more bean hack for you at home is when you've cooked your beans, right? And they've cooled down completely, you can freeze them. Oh, I know, right? I have gazabo chickpea beans in my freezer right now for a hummus that I'm probably going to make in 2 weeks when I get visitors come over. So you can freeze all those beans. I like to freeze them in a Ziploc bag or a container with a little bit of the cooking water in there so they're just covered. So that's a good tip for you. So in saying all of that, I'm going to put a link to my cookbook down here in the description, and I'm also going to put all the beans I've mentioned. And all the beans I've mentioned definitely need a cooking time between 1 to 2 hours. Yep. And what you'll notice is when they're cooking, you'll start getting these bubbles on the top here, like foam, right? Like froth. Not foam, is it foam? Yeah, foam, froth kind of thing. It's really important to scoop that off because that's all the impurities from the beans. So becoming plant-based or heading towards, plant-based lifestyle or vegan or vegetarian or whatever, beans are so important. I live on beans. I basically have chickpea curry, dal, and I have khichdi at least twice a week. I really do live on them. I find them amazing. My skin glows. I find my digestive system so much better. I find I sleep better. And I've found over the years, soaking them in bicarb soda has been a miracle actually for me, and soaking them for at least 18 hours for that bloating, farting situation that goes on. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.